I think that's really one of the most difficult things about navigating the entertainment industry when you're, growing up in the shadow of someone, is people already have formed an opinion of you without even knowing anything about you. So you're constantly battling and pushing back against that. So like when I was doing more folk and like acoustic music, people were like, oh, what the hell is this? Like Sammy Hagar's kids doing like folk, like, whoa. But then some people were like, oh, that's so cool that he's doing something different. Right. And now that I'm doing more of like a rock project, it's the same thing. People are like, oh, what the hell? This isn't Van Halen. And other people are like, oh, this is really cool. It's different, So.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast, the podcast taking a behind the scenes look at all things music. I'm your host, Cassius Morris. Joe Pacheco joining me on the line as always. What's happening, my man?
Doing good, man. Enjoying the nice weather here, even though I have a bit of under the weather, and thanks to modern medicine, I'm able to pull through.
My man is surviving off sheer will and Dayquil right now. He's powering through like a legend. Yeah. We appreciate you being here, man. And we appreciate you guys being here for episode 120 of the show. We're very happy to be joined by our man, Andrew Hagar, on today's episode of the podcast, talking about his brand new single, Systematic Minds, produced by Trev Lukather, I may add as well. An awesome track, awesome guy. Joe, I feel like this was, one of my favorite guests, at least in recent episodes. And, everybody's been great, but Andrew was really awesome.
Yeah, I just had a feeling that it was going to be a fun time, fun discussion, a couple of laughs and stuff. And, the fact that he's also a professional MMA fighter and also a singer definitely ticked both of my, sort of, I don't know what you should say, but tickled my interest, basically.
100%. It's definitely interesting to see, how somebody can go ahead and wear those different hats and maneuver in those different worlds. And that's really part of what we talked about in this episode. And of course, if the name sounds familiar, Andrew is not shy about being the son of legendary rock star Sammy Hagar. And, he talks very candidly and openly about his relationship with his dad. Joe, you talked to him about how his dad is perhaps influences music. So, we don't want to spoil too much, but he was definitely, again, very open, very candid. And we're looking forward to sharing this episode with you. Def Leppard icon Rick Allen has opened up about being assaulted outside of a hotel in the United States. Now, this was definitely a very, very sad story, Joe, and super confusing as well.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my mind around this.
That's it. Like, why, first you think, why the hell would anybody attack Rick Allen if they knew who he was, which I don't think they did know who he was.
Probably
right?
not. Yeah, I mean, it's reported that the person who attacked Rick was actually reported to be 19 years old. So, it's a toss-up. I mean, listen, I'm 24. I know Def Leppard. And if I saw this guy, it's funny because I may recognize this guy over Joe Elliott, because for some reason I feel like I've seen this dude in the the VH1 documentaries and stuff. They really focus on him. But what do you think, Joe? Do you think a 19-year-old would know them?
That's a good question. I mean, to be honest, out of context, when you've seen somebody all your life, but in a certain context, but then if I ran into him in a mall, would I recognize this guy? You know what I mean? Without double thinking, really thinking about this guy looks familiar. I can't figure it out, So yeah, maybe the person didn't recognize, but it doesn't matter. You still and the thing is, if you read lower, that hotel is who called the 911, and they've had other incidents of people getting attacked or assailants hitting people. So it's a bigger problem than just Rick Allen, for this hotel.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely it's a shame to see for Fort Lauderdale. I mean, the United States definitely has a high crime rate. Florida has a high crime rate for sure, but it's definitely been better than some other states. So, it's sad to see it maybe starting to go in the opposite direction. We do have some video of Rick talking about his attack and being very open on Good Morning America.
I heard a couple of steps, and then I just saw this dark sort of flash. And the next thing I knew was I was on the ground. I landed on my backside, and then continued on, hit my head on the pavement.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. I mean, look, he goes on here to explain that he just basically doesn't know if he was going to get attacked again, right? In the heat of that moment, you don't know what's happening.
Reach my hand up into the air. As I thought I was going to get attacked again. And I just said, I am no threat to you. I don't think he knew who I was. But he must have seen that I wasn't a threat because, I've only got one arm.
At least he has a sense of humor, and he can sort of laugh at it in a sense, but obviously he's still shaken sort of an emotional talking about this even now, Joe.
Yeah, and I believe I read here Vivian Campbell, guitar player for Def Leppard, also went on and say it's probably like some spring breakers couldn't hold their alcohol and just doing stupidities, and this happened. I mean, man, he banged his head. You know what I mean? Like, that's a serious injury.
Serious stuff, and he was unconscious, I believe, for a short period of time.
Right? So it's like he could have gone.
That's serious stuff. Yeah, 100%.
Could have gone really badly.
Really glad he's doing well. He's feeling better. And even, every time I see this guy, he's just a pillar of inspiration, man. The fact that he's been through so much in his life, the crash, he's still playing, he adjusted, they made albums since and all that stuff, right? Like it's freaking unbelievable, man. So shout out Rick Allen. Everybody here at SoundMojo, we love you, man. Metallica frontman James Hetfield is making headlines after visiting Ukrainian soldiers at a Colorado hospital. Now, this is pretty cool.
It's always cool, man. And you know what? Like, I've said this so many times, I've never, I'm not in that position of fame or even to help somebody in that sense, but like, I don't know if I'd be able to, man, because like seeing other people suffer, especially kids, like when the hockey players go see the kids and stuff, I don't know, man. I don't know if I would be able to handle that stuff. So kudos to James for going and visit like someone who was injured in the Ukraine war.
So James went to visit soldiers at the Limbs for Liberty Foundation, which I guess is a nonprofit that got in touch with them. And here's a couple of statements from the people who he went and touched and visited. The one says, quote, "It was unexpected. I didn't even believe it at the first moment that it was him. It was very short, but it was a very warm meeting. It would be nice to meet him at a campfire and have a drink instead of the hospital."
Amen.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, we wish that for them 100%. And, we hope that they're feeling better and they're all recovering. Limbs for Liberty partners with physicians and physical therapists to provide prosthetics to Ukrainians who have lost limbs in the war. This is really cool that James took the time to go and visit these guys. Obviously, it had to be quick. He was probably just there, probably for a show or, probably in between shows, making a quick, little tour stop. And, the fact that he's even doing it for a nonprofit, he's not getting paid for this, I would imagine. Right. So it's really, it says a lot.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Like, and I'm sure these guys are pulled apart, as they say, pulled apart by horses. Go here, interview here, talk to me here, do this here, right? Charities, I'm sure, all day long. So you have to pick and choose, and it isn't easy for. I don't know. I would have a difficult time. So
definitely, James Hetfield going through a lot as well this past year. Newly sober, he publicly admitted to going to rehab. Just last year, he's back out now on tour. And this is a guy who, again, just like we were talking about with Rick, he's been through so much in his life. And, so to take the time and to also be out there on tour, I think it's a great time for Metallica, Joe. And as the show gets closer in my city, I always was like, I've seen them, whatever, but I'm starting to get a little bit excited. I'm like, this is kind of cool.
Well, it's interesting because like I've seen some clips like on shorts and stuff on everywhere pretty much of like what the setup looks like and they're playing, and it's just interesting to see them. Most of them are about James smoking, just waiting to go on stage with the fans around him.
He's constantly smoking that cigar.
Yeah, but it's like, and then I look at the setup, I'm like, oh my God, it's so huge, right? With the people in the middle of it.
It's colossal.
And then you look at, you see Lars Ulrich's drum kit looks like a little toy in the corner.
The Metallica action figures coming to a stadium near you.
It's not even like it didn't even, I don't know, I saw it quick, but it didn't even look like a double, with 6 toms and all the big metal. It just looked like a 5-piece drum kit on the floor.
It's a smaller kit than what he's used, it's true.
Yeah, so I don't know. I
definitely noticed that.
To piggyback on what you said, like I've seen them before. It's been a long time since I've seen them. I saw them before the Black Album. Let's just put it that way, right?
Nice.
But I don't know. I'm not excited, man. I sort of got, just being honest, I'm just not excited to pay that kind of money.
Well, you saw them in their prime, though, man.
50,000 people
it was a good price too.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it's gonna sound, like I know here, anyways, the Big O here, the Olympic Stadium. I've seen Pink Floyd there, and I just don't remember if I liked it or didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure I liked it because it's David Gilmour and all that stuff, but I don't know. I don't have any like, wow, that song sounded so amazing. Maybe I'm just too fixated on quality and sound and stuff. But
well, audio engineers tend to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the
part of the trade.
Yeah, that's it. But no, I mean, like, look. Having said that, free or covering the show, I guess I would go. You know what I mean?
Better get your camera ready. Hopping over to the SoundMojo Community tab. Of course, this is the place where we post different polls to see what you guys are listening to and watching. And of course, this is our Versus segment. Here we asked, pick your favorite 90s female singer. Alanis Morissette, Beyonce, Sheryl Crow, or Mariah Carey.
Our audience picked 43% for Alanis Morissette, 15% for Beyonce, surprise, 17% for Sheryl Crow, and 25% for Mariah Carey.
Now, are you surprised by this, Joe?
Yeah, I would say yes. Well, yes, in the sense that Alanis Morissette took it so far, right? But no, not in the sense of, if you really just keep into the context of the 90s, I mean, she pretty much ruled the 90s in this, in this sense. So there was the Celine Dion's and there's all those other singers. Natalie Imbruglia was huge, Mariah Carey, obviously, but we only get 4 options here. So these are the 4 options for now.
For 90s, I would have banked on Mariah Carey because I feel like she's making such a big comeback now in terms of TikTok and all these new apps. She is second place, but second place, I would have pegged Beyonce because she definitely was big, but I definitely think what you're saying is true, Joe. She wasn't really a 90s artist. I feel like, her heyday was even the last 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there was one of the comments here mentions that, she wasn't really Beyonce, a solo artist and that, but she was still a singer, a female singer in the 90s with Destiny's Child. And they were no little thing to, everybody paid attention to them, trust me. So
they were big.
Kind of fairish, right? So we have Gay Meg Simmons. I mean, Beyonce, this is exactly what I was quoting, 90s. So even though Destiny's Child stuff, blah, blah, blah. But like I said, it's fair for everyone. Sheryl Crow, she did her stuff, whatever, Rich Littlejohn, tough. I know.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. Frank Marr, Alanis, no question, Jagged Little Pill is a perfect album.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Vaughn Scrogan Thorpe. I hope I said that right. Where is Dolores O'Riordan? Yeah, she was actually one of the choices but like I said, I only have 4, so she'll come. Don't worry. We'll pin Alanis Morissette against Dolores for sure, because she's definitely an iconic singer of the 90s. And Jewel as well. I used to love Jewel as a singer.
Jewel was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I said, they only give us 5, so that's 4. Sorry, so that's what we get in this case.
Let us know in the comments who you pick. Here we ask Zakk Wylde versus Marty Friedman.
Our audience picked 66% for Marty Friedman and 35% for Zakk Wylde.
Yeah, I feel like the SoundMojo audience is definitely more in tune with the guitar players, and Marty is among that group, even though, Megadeth was very mainstream. I feel like Zakk gets unnecessary hatred within some of the guitar community because he is very mainstream. So this makes sense to me.
It's funny you say mainstream. I don't find them mainstream at all. But in terms of the guitar world, I get what you mean. They're the heavy hitters. In all honesty, this surprised me. I thought Zakk would have a closer, if not even more so, because of the fact of Pantera, the Ozzy connection, and then the Black Label Society. So yeah, I definitely underestimated this. I personally cannot pick between the two because they're so vastly unique and very good guitar players, very influential to me. But yeah, I don't know. I can't pick. I didn't vote on this one, so I'm just saying.
It's very hard to pick. My personal favorite might have to go to Marty, just because of the sheer, but again, Joe, you're right. We can't compare. This is, guys, you're torturing us. We're metalheads over here. We can't take this. I can't pick either.
Yeah, I know of Marty and have been listening to Marty a lot longer. I remember I paid $22 for the Cacophony cassette, a cassette back in the day because it was an import.
Cassette. Wow.
Because I kept
$22 get you a box now.
Yeah, exactly. I get to see I always get to see them in guitar magazines, but we didn't have the Spotifys and YouTube, so I couldn't hear what these guys were all about, right? And then I bought that album and I was like, what the hell is going on, man? These guys are not normal. They're crazy. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then Zakk, when I heard the riff too, and I'm still 40 years later still playing Miracle Man. That riff is just so iconic, and he's such a good player. And the thing about Zakk is he has so much power and flash in his playing, but it's also very, Marty too is super tricky to play. Marty, the thing with Marty is that every note that you hear is chosen purposely by Marty. It's not because it's part of that scale. It's not because it should be there. It's because he chose for it to be there. And that's what makes him extremely tricky. Anyways, for me, to be able to kind of sort of mimic what he does, very hard. So let's check some of these comments. Jacob Montana. There isn't a world where Zakk is better player than than Marty. Fair enough, I guess. Joy
Saw that one coming.
Reynancia, because Marty uses a Japanese scale. This one made me laugh. This one really made me laugh.
That's absurd.
No, but it's hilarious because he uses a Japanese scale because he's super fluent in Japanese. The Stinky Steve, sorry. Marty's just better. That's it. Jacqueline Robinson, Jay Quellen. I keep wanting to say that when I see that name, Jacqueline. Who are they?
Well,
maybe
listen,
19,
obviously they're guitar players because they're both holding guitars.
Yeah. Chillspur. Imagine confidently choosing Zakk over Marty, and he laughs.
Oh, wow.
Wow, some people are like really, I guess I'm a very indecisive person, I guess, in certain things, like for me, there's no like black and white with this kind of stuff. It's just because, I prefer something,
Yeah.
Matt Real, whoever picks Zakk is objectively wrong.
Oh, come on. That's not right.
Yeah, and then somebody pass. Sure, pass. Fair enough.
Yeah, I had to pass too. I'm with that guy. Let us know in the comments who you'd pick. This is a tough one. Hopping over to our interview segment, as mentioned off the top of the show, we got Andrew Hagar today. An awesome, very talkative guest. He talks about the world of MMA. He talks about his brand new single. He talks about being the son of a famous rock star, which, guys, it's not as easy as it sounds. And Joe, it's, again, it was a cool perspective to get.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked him that question because, we're all on our judgmental tables over here and judging, because, honestly, when, I too was guilty of when I was a kid being a huge fan of David Lee Roth and Van Halen. That sound when it came in, I was like, I like the songs, to be honest. I like the stuff that Sammy made, but I was like, no, I'm a first, Van Halen, the early generation kind of guy.
Yeah.
Until about 1990 when, for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, those albums, that one and Balance really sold me on Sammy and stuff. So I was good with that. But it's, man, he says it in the interview, to be hated without even knowing this person. You don't even know who he is, what he's about, but people hate you because of...
Yeah. Or love. I mean, it's kind of weird, too, to love somebody you don't know if you really think about it, but it makes more sense, at least.
That goes easier.
At least it's based in something that's, a little more logical. But, definitely an interesting trip. And let's dive in. Awesome, man. Andrew Hagar, well, welcome to the Innersleeve Music Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Definitely, man. So Systematic Minds, of course, congratulations on the brand new single. I'll say, I think it's fair to say for myself and Joe, we're definitely really digging it, man.
Awesome.
The music, everything about it is great. Maybe what can you tell us about the brand new single?
Well, Systematic Minds is the first song that me and my co-writer and producer, Trev Lukather, wrote together back in December of 2020. We put together a whole record that I think we're actually going to be releasing over the course of 2 different EPs. First one's going to be coming out in June and the second one later in the summer. I'm really excited to finally get this stuff out because, like I said, we started working on this back in 2020. So we've been sitting on it for a minute, Yeah, the song itself, it's more just about the, like I said in some other interviews and in the press release and stuff, the kind of weird systematic ideology that a lot of people have fallen into over the last few years, just the weird divisiveness in the media and people looking at headlines instead of actually looking at the thing people are talking about. When there's some controversy, it's people will listen to a talking head talk about it instead of go investigate it for themselves and figure out what their real opinion is, So I guess that's kind of where the inspiration came from for the song.
It's like the whole epidemic of people, they'll share a Facebook link, but they won't read the article, right? It's like it's like a hive mentality for whatever they believe in.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, the echo chamber. I mean, people have been, talking about that stuff to death for the last few years now, but it is a really big problem. It continues to be. And if nothing else, I hope that people come away from listening to this song, maybe, thinking about things from a different perspective, or maybe asking the question, why the hell do we think this way?
Not only that, but even if you find, I find myself sometimes, I don't want to hear what that guy has to say. And then I know right away, That's a problem. That's a problem.
A huge problem, right? You can't have a discussion about things anymore, which again, if people want to heal the world and heal the country and all these, big ideas, you have to be willing to have a conversation with people you don't agree with and at least see why they feel the way that they feel and where they're coming from. That's how we're going to get unity. Just trying to have some compassion and empathy for people. So sadly, that seems to have like disappeared completely from the conversation, you know?
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite poets, Rumi, which everybody, you know, we all like to quote and share, right? And he says something along the lines of, how do you, no, I'm drawing a blank, but I'm drawing a blank now of all times. Anyways, I'll come back.
That's my famous quote. I'm drawing a blank. That's what they'll write in my poetry.
Oh no, I got it. It's like at first we want to be wise and change the world or something, and then we're wise and realize you have to change yourself.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's all you have control over, right? So, but most people seek outside external, you know, ideologies and whatever, instead of getting like the knowledge of self, which is arguably one of the most important things. That's just how you're going to hit your own upgrades and make your world a better place. And if everybody was doing that, the actual world would be a better place. So,
yep.
Couldn't have said it better. You know, so in terms of the collab with Trev Lukather, talk to us about that. I mean, so obviously this happened in 2020, the initial collab. Do you and Trev go way back? Did you guys just connect recently?
Yeah, Trevor and I have been friends for a long time. We met at the inaugural Chicken Foot show back at the Roxy. I think that was early 2000s. And we became really fast friends. You know, my dad was pouring tequila down everybody's throats. And, you know, Trevor and I kind of bonded over a mutual love of high quality tequila. And then, you know, the rest is history. We spent a lot of
bond over.
It's very easy to bond over, you know? Especially when it's really good tequila, you know? But no, we spent a lot of time together, partied a lot together, and just obviously we come from similar backgrounds and have experienced, you know, some weirdness of being like the second gen kids. I mean, people probably think it's like all, you know, like roses and daffodils and shit, but it's a weird world to navigate. Yeah. And so, you know, Trev and I kind of found solace and similarity in our experiences and became really quick friends because of that. And I never really thought that I would work with him in any capacity because we were just, you know, like best friends. And then one day, you know, I had a bunch of stuff going on prior to the pandemic. I was doing more of like an indie rock, like folk rock thing. I had a couple different record deals that I was looking at for based on a couple different songs that I had written that never were released. I had like a little tour in Western Europe and some other stuff, and like things were going great. And then, you know, just like everybody else, pandemic kind of put a lot of those things on the back burner. So, but based on some of the stuff Trev had heard, he came up with an idea when he had just started kind of working more on production stuff during the pandemic. And he hit me up one day and was just like, hey, I have this little instrumental bed I created thinking of you and some of these other songs we were talking about. And I was spinning on it for like a couple hours, and I was like, yeah, like, let's do something. So I drove down to LA and, you know, just kind of spinning out on the lyrics in my head and stuff, voice memos. And then once I got down there, we stayed up all night getting the rough draft of the song together. And then the next couple of days we cleaned it up and turned it into Systematic Minds. And then we just decided like right then, like, man, we gotta do more. So we started with an EP. And then a few months after that, I came back and did the second half of the record with him. And it was really cool. I just would write stuff by myself on an acoustic guitar, like in my living room or my bedroom for years, and never really did many co-writes from me. I used to like ghostwrite lyrics and stuff for people as part of like a sync team and part of like an artist development team immediately prior to the pandemic. And it was cool writing with someone for myself because I wouldn't consider myself like an incredible producer or guitar player or anything. Like I'm a songwriter first and foremost. And even more than that, I'm mostly a lyricist. So yeah, to do that with someone like Trev, who's such a talented musician and such a great producer, it was a really cool experience.
Obviously, both of you growing up, you know, as you said, second generation, you know, I'm wondering because, like, you know, I grew up listening to guys like your dad and obviously Trev's dad and stuff and playing guitar and trying to learn all those licks. And so I wonder, like, you know, when I'm writing stuff, obviously all those influences come out in how I write stuff. So I wonder for you guys, when you're writing, is it hard, let's say, like, you know, maybe when you were younger, was it hard to like show your dad, check out what I'm working on, or like and see his reaction to it?
Yeah, I know for Trev especially, like he and his dad had almost like an adversarial relationship when it came to like playing guitar. Like nothing Trev did earlier on was good enough for his dad. And likewise, like I played a little bit of music growing up. I played like drums and I sang in choir and stuff, but I didn't really start playing guitar until my early 20s. And that's also when I started writing songs, but I never really like gave it to my dad. My dad always told me to never, ever be a part of the entertainment industry. Because when I was,
he would know.
It was on the tail end of all the Van Halen stuff. So like, he was getting absolutely annihilated in the media, and it was the dark side of fame that I saw, So I never really wanted to do anything with it either. And then just by random coincidence, I ended up, in a relationship with someone. We ended up doing a folk duet project, and then we landed like a big tour, and it was just like, whoa, okay, all of a sudden things are just starting to pop off, and I needed to figure out what the hell I was doing, and catch up. But yeah, it's been really cool having someone like my dad to, throw ideas at when I have like a new song and it's a little more developed. I never send him demos because I don't want him to like influence where I'm going with it.
Right.
I just want him to hear it when it's like fully formed enough, but still in a rough place mix wise, because he does offer really good advice. And I mean, he's got a great ear. I think, objectively, he has very good taste in music. Maybe some people who don't enjoy the Van Hagar era might disagree with me, but his musical taste, I mean, he introduced me to bands like Radiohead and Alice in Chains and Nine Inch Nails when I was a kid, and,
nice.
In the 90s. And yeah, I mean, all objectively good bands, I think. But so, yeah, it's nice to have someone like him and someone like my mom, too, who's another really great songwriter that people probably have never heard of.
That's awesome, though. The whole family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Steve Lukather was on this show, and he actually said that he thinks some elements of music and the business might be harder for his son due to sort of his position in life. And, you talked about some of the weirdness that you've encountered. Maybe if you can speak on that. How do you feel about a statement like that?
I actually completely agree with that. A lot of people would assume that, there's a huge buzz in the industry about nepotism right now, the whole idea of like nepo babies and whatnot. And especially that like MTV Family Legacy show that I was just on, like they spotlight a lot of the nepotism in the industry, and it only gets you so far. I mean, I've definitely gotten more eyeballs earlier on in my career when I probably wasn't ready for it. And that's a blessing and a curse. But the expectations of people, especially like my father's fans, for Trev, like his dad's fans, unless we're doing it's like, if you're doing something exactly like what your parents are doing, people are going to love you for it and people are going to hate you for it. And I tasted a lot of that before I even started playing music. I was like getting harassed by Van Halen fans and stuff on either sides of the
crazy
fence, Yeah, but people like they don't know you, and they already love or hate you regardless of how you actually are. They don't need to know anything. They have already formulated an opinion. So I think that's really one of the most difficult things about navigating the entertainment industry when you're, growing up in the shadow of someone, is people already have formed an opinion of you without even knowing anything about you. So you're constantly battling and pushing back against that. So like when I was doing more folk and like acoustic music, people were like, oh, what the hell is this? Like Sammy Hagar's kids doing like folk, like, whoa. But then some people were like, oh, that's so cool that he's doing something different. Right. And now that I'm doing more of like a rock project, it's the same thing. People are like, oh, what the hell? This isn't Van Halen. And other people are like, oh, this is really cool. It's different, So, it is what it is, man. I'm appreciative.
It's fascinating, though.
People. Yeah.
You talk about the Family Legacy show too. Was that something that was fun to be a part of, or like what was that experience sort of like?
It was really interesting. I've been offered like a lot of random reality stuff over the years, and that's not really my cup of tea. So I turned down everything pretty much instantly. This one was pitched to me by a really good friend of mine, my friend Stormer, who was formerly one of the head producers at Access TV, and now he's got his own independent production company. So he's been doing a lot of stuff, rock documentaries and whatnot. And he had this friend that works for Glass Entertainment. It's the production company that did MTV Family Legacy. And so they contacted me through Stormer. I've worked with him in various capacities over the years, and I really respect the guy because he's always trying to do the right thing in entertainment, which is a really rare thing.
Right.
And, the way that the show was pitched to me was an opportunity to talk about some of the things that people don't normally talk about when we're discussing this. Like I'm always trying to talk about, mental health, especially whenever I get an opportunity, or a platform. And so they were basically offering me a chance to talk about this stuff on like Paramount Plus, which has like, 84 million subscribers or something. And, and even being adjacent to MTV, it seemed cool because, I grew up watching a lot of stuff on MTV, and, it has a special place in my nostalgic heart. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
So it was cool. But the process itself was like, we did like 7 hours of interviews, and like one of those hours was with my dad. The rest was just me talking about all sorts of really like, we're talking about funny stuff, but I was talking about a lot of heavy stuff too. And it was cool. I was really curious what they were going to use because, 30 minutes at the time they were doing, I think 10 episodes, and each one was going to have like one of the kids. And then in the 11th hour, they switched it and squashed everything together for 5 episodes.
Okay.
So then, we got each like 15 minutes. And so it ended up being like more of a, MTV pat on the back kind of deal where they're talking about the VMAs and stuff. But I felt like they did a good job of showing like the kind of the comedy, the interplay between, me and my dad. We have a really funny relationship like that. And I think they did a good job of showing that. So.
Yeah, definitely seems like a cool experience, like for the whole fam to be a part of. Another thing that is cool about you is that you actually have a past in MMA, which is interesting.
Yes, sir.
Maybe talk to us about that, and how exactly and when exactly did you make the main transition from that to music?
That's a funny story. So when I was a kid, I wanted nothing more than to be like a Ninja Turtle, So I told my parents I wanted to do that when I was about 5 or 6, and begged them to put me into like karate. So I did karate for a little while. I did a variety of martial arts until when I was about 15, I stumbled on Muay Thai kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and like submission grappling. Started training those things really heavy. And when I turned 18 and decided to go to college, I went to LA because it was one of the only places where there was, at the time, it wasn't even called MMA. It was like no holds barred, but there was a place where you could train in all the disciplines. You didn't have to go to a bunch of different gyms. It was called Real American Wrestling, founded by this guy, Rico Chiapparelli, who's like one of the most like famous wrestlers and coaches that probably a lot of people outside of the industry have never heard of. But people like Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, Frank Trigg, Josh Barnett, like all these big old school MMA fighters were training there before they broke off and went to their own little thing with Team Quest. Josh Barnett was obviously up in Seattle with, I think, AMC Pancration, and he would come down before fight camps and train with us down there. And a lot of really good guys. I was like the smallest guy by, 50 pounds in that place, and was just getting, can I curse here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. I was like getting my shit pushed in every day. You know what I mean? But
that's where the knowledge comes in, right?
Yes, sir. And the discipline and the killing of your ego every day, like it makes you work hard at being humble, which is, I think, really important in life in general. But the discipline, all these things, there's so many things that are amazing about, martial arts training and combat sports. But so I did that for a long time. I had some fights and stuff back in the day. And then after college, I worked corporate for a little while. And after working that for a few years, I was like, you know what, there's got to be a better way to do this where I can actually be happy. So I cashed out my Roth IRA, my 401k, and started training people professionally as a living. And
nice.
It was tough for the first few years. I was coming off my first knee surgery when I was like 25 years old. And but yeah, I landed a good job and was training some pretty high level athletes and stuff. Got a few, world championship titles out of my fighters, and it was a great thing. And then, like I said, one day I met somebody, we started playing music together, and we started touring. And I was right about to go out for the first tour we did, opening up for like Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson. And I was training one of my fighters, an amateur boxer. I called for a right uppercut, and he threw a right straight, and he broke my middle finger. It's still crooked.
Look at that.
And no shade.
Yeah. I got a second. No.
But no, it was brutal because like if it would have been my left hand, obviously I would have had a really hard time playing guitar. It just, as it was there, I had a difficult time finger picking, but whatever, I'm going to make do. It's Willie Nelson and Chris Christopherson. But my dad always told me I wouldn't be able to do both. He's like, you're not going to be able to train people, to compete, and to go out there and tour in any real capacity. And you're going to have to make a choice at some point. And that was the moment. I was like, shit, he's absolutely right. Because I was sitting there going, fuck you, Dad. I can figure it out. I can make it work. And Nah, he was right.
Yeah.
So
What does he know?
yeah, what the hell does he know, right?
No, man, that's interesting though. So you had to really sit down and then you just went on the tour and it really spoke for itself. Like when you had to sit down and make that choice.
Absolutely. I mean, to contrast the first time I got up on stage and played music with the first time, like my first amateur Muay Thai fight, for instance, like I fought in like a dingy, gym in LA in North Hollywood Muay Thai Academy, which is like, one of the first Muay Thai gyms in America, like a lot of history there, but it's incredibly intense experience knowing, leading up to the moment in the fight, like the weeks or maybe the month you have to train. And then getting there and seeing your opponent for the first time, because you really don't know who you're going to fight in smokers. And then getting in there, it's like, man, I was scared shitless and I couldn't wait to do it. But then when I got there, I was like, man, this is a totally different thing. It's a totally different thing than like scrapping with somebody at like a party or something, and it just kind of happens. All the lead up, I was like, man, this is nerve wracking. And like, I couldn't wait for it to be over. And, I did it more after that just because I thought, oh, maybe I just need to get over the hump. But every single time it felt like that. And a lot of the guys I talked to who are professional fighters, it felt like that for them anyways. And I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself if you hate it so much? You even see people like one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, like Georges St. Pierre. He says the same thing. He hates the fight.
The homeboy.
That's right. You're Canadian, huh?
Yeah, we're from I'm from Montreal, so he's like literally not far from here.
Amazing. Yeah.
I love that guy. He's like I find him, I grew up watching, Bruce Lee movies, Chuck Norris, and the whole Zen thing. But I find this guy, Georges St. Pierre, GSP, as like a great example of what it's about, and not just about the fighting and the macho. It's just about the respect of the art.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things about him is he's a martial artist first and a fighter second. And you can really see he embodies that lifestyle. And I really appreciate that, especially in this day and age of the Conor McGregor archetypes that are just trying to jab and sell the fight. Obviously what he did in the sport is great too, but I appreciate people who are a little bit more humble with it and really respect one another in the art,
Yeah.
But yeah, so you see a lot of people like that hate fighting, but they do it anyways. Contrast that to like my first experience on stage. As soon as I got up there and realized that I didn't suck and I wasn't just going to absolutely shit the bed in the live performance, I was in love with it. I came off stage, I played like 15 minutes and I was just like, man, I could play all night. That was so cool. I got so much love from the people in the crowd, the people that were there. And I was like, man, this is amazing. Like the exact opposite of this thing I thought that I had loved my entire life. And so I was like, man, like I got to do everything I can to make this work and to make this a life choice. So I've just been working incredibly hard and diligently, just like I did getting ready for fights, to get ready for shows, to become a better songwriter, to become a better musician. Like, I've been doing voice lessons for the past like 2.5 years just to try to get everything better, and it's a labor of love though. Like I love this stuff and I am going to do it for the rest of my life, regardless of, whether I'm like a, big time, whatever or not. Like, I don't want to be somebody like fucking Justin Bieber or something. I just want to go out there and have fun and play shows and play theaters and stuff. And whatever, make
I don't even
music.
think Justin Bieber wants to be Justin Bieber anymore. So I think you're definitely in a good spot. I'd rather take your route.
Yeah.
In terms of MMA, what's your favorite type of music to train to when you were training a lot?
Oh man, it's gonna sound weird, but I really liked when they would play like old school hip hop, or sometimes some instructors would even play jazz, because there's such a rhythmic component to fighting. It really helps if you have some type of like rhythm to kind of move to and to set your movements to, because it's all about, like you were talking about Bruce Lee, like he was the king of like broken rhythm and finding like the beats between the beats to hit people. And so that's a really huge component of like the dance. So, I know a lot of like the stereotypes, like a lot of guys listen to like metal or like kind of like harder, heavier music when they're training, but anger gets you in trouble in a fight. You have to really be clear and emotionless. You have to be like a stone cold killer in there and not get worked up, because you make mistakes when you're angry. So when you're training is something you can move to and feel the movement. That's why it's cool. Like when people play like weird experimental jazz, I'll be like, what the hell is this guy playing? But then when you think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, well, they're moving in a way that's not really like natural. You're not used to it. And so they're always kind of a step ahead of you. They're leading the dance. And that's really what it's about in a competitive standpoint, is you have to take control and lead the dance. And if you can keep the person guessing, you're going to win that fight.
It's funny because when you mentioned Bruce Lee and the rhythm and the timing, I was thinking, wow, so then maybe he qualifies as like progressive rock, you know, where it's not always 4/4, you know, it's like
he was a salsa dancer. Bruce Lee was a big time salsa dancer.
No surprise.
A lot of people
there.
know that, but yeah, no surprise.
That makes
there.
sense.
The guy allegedly he danced cha-cha, he danced salsa, and he won some competitions and stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
He's an incredible human being, man, that guy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He definitely one of a kind, man, for sure. Yeah. So, you know, in terms of this album that's potentially in the works with Trev, when can people potentially expect, you know, more of these collaborations to come out? And can we expect maybe a tour or what's in the works there?
Yeah. The album's done. The album's been done for a minute. There's been some complications on the back end, rotating cast of managers and whatnot who all have their own plan and agenda. None of it seems to be working out. So, at this point, I'm going to drop the first EP. I'm going to do 2 EPs instead of a full-length record, just because the way the marketplace is right now, I don't have the funds to push like a record out. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to do that. But I'm going to release the first EP in June. I'm going to announce that formally very soon. And the second one will be coming later in the summer. We have a smattering of dates over the summer, just like 1 and 2 off shows with the band. And then in the fall, we're going to be going on like a little bit more considerable tour. But it looks like the real big tour, just the way the music industry works, you got to book everything so far out these days, especially 2024. We're going to be doing like a real proper tour with a big band supporting them. So I'll announce all that stuff soon. But yeah, for now, the first EP is going to come out in June. So just a month away. Yeah.
Nice.
Man, that's going to be huge.
Hope you make it out here, man. I'd love to come and see you guys for sure.
I would love to play in Canada. I've actually never played in Canada. I got a lot of friends in Montreal and a lot of friends in Toronto, and I've been dying to come out there and play. But you know, that's hard, man.
No, totally.
Without a label juicing you with some tour support budget, it's tough. So
it's tough, man, and it's it's the inflation out here especially is insane too. But no, definitely we'd love to see it. Obviously here at Watch Mojo, we're well known for our top 10 lists. And so we wanted to pull one for you here during this interview. Figured we pull a wild card. This is the top 10 musicians who ruined their careers with one album. Yeah, it's a tough one, and we wanted to see if you could potentially guess who we had in our top 3 spots. And if you can't guess who you might think is on the list, you could always throw out one that you might think could be a contender as well.
Oh man!
And this is like all of music, right? Not just a specific genre.
Yeah, right. Jeez. Oh my God. Yeah, I can't. I mean,
it's tough on the spot.
You're on the spot, man.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, I can think of some people who were not doing great that switched genres and became like a superstar. I think you probably got one on the tip of your tongue just from hearing that.
This is one where it's like it's where they ruined their career with that album.
Exactly. Yeah. Jesus Christ, man.
That's not one in there. Jesus Christ is in there.
His release was pretty successful.
Yeah, he did some good work.
He's got some longevity.
All right, give me a hint here. How about number 10? Let's hear number 10 first.
10 is Public Enemy, Muse, Sick an Hour, I guess. Was that it?
Yeah, Sick an Hour Massage.
There you go.
Oh, man.
That's one. Madonna, American Life was number 9. American Life of Madonna in 2003.
Oh, yeah. What about Guns N' Roses might be on there?
No, not on there.
That could have been a good one, though. Okay,
which album would you think it was? The Chinese Democracy?
Yeah, Chinese Democracy. Yeah. Just been like that. You could say the same thing about like Metallica. A lot of people didn't like a couple things they did.
Load,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, it's not an easy one, this one.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm drawing a huge blank here. And like, I'm kind of a big time music nerd, but Yeah, clearly not nerdy enough.
The funny thing is we're looking through some lists before we got on the call, and we're like, what do we ask? And then I said, I saw this one, like top 10 musicians ruined their career with one album. Yeah. And that's not funny. What's funny is what's coming up. So number one, I'll start number three. Number three was Styx's Kilroy was here, 1983. Oh, okay. Maybe the fact that they went from rock to a little bit more of a synthesizer sound threw people off.
Right. Number two, I could see people arguing for Van Halen on there too. Obviously, with Sharon.
There you go. Number two. Number two. I totally was unexpected. I'm like, Van Halen 3. I'm like, but I love Van Halen 3. Then I realized, no, it's the 1998 Van Halen 3 with Gary, right?
Right. I love Gary. Extreme's a great
Of course.
Band, and they're killing right now, so, yeah.
I know. What timing, right? With Nuno and his solo, and then it just blew out his knee too as well. So it's like
crazy. Nuno doesn't age though. Like whatever he's doing is great. I want some of that. You need
that regiment.
I'll shout out for my homeboy. I mean, he's Portuguese. I'm Portuguese. It's something in the cooking. Something in the cooking. It must be.
I bet. Yeah. Hell yeah.
I love that.
And then number one was Robin Thicke, Paula, 2014.
Oh man.
I'm not familiar with
when all the allegations came out.
That's it. Yeah.
He basically the court album is what they should have called that one.
Ooh, man. Yikes.
Definitely a big one. But yeah, that's number one on our list.
Wow.
We appreciate it, man. Listen, Andrew, it's been awesome chatting with you, dude. The single is amazing. What more can you let people know about, like where to find you and what's coming up?
I'm mostly active on Instagram, so hit me up on Andrew Hagar Official on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, which I probably don't post enough on there for some people's liking, so I'm going to start being better about that. But same thing, Andrew Hagar Official. You can find all of my upcoming tour dates, all the release dates, random silly videos, me making an ass of myself. I'm sure a lot of people like that. So
I liked some of your voiceover ones when the single came out like last week. I think it was like some of the voiceover ones were cool. It was good. But anyways, we'll have
commercial voice acting on the side too. That's like my primary money gig. So
there you go. But we'll have all those descriptions for sure in the link as well. All those descriptions in the link. Sorry, I was back talkwards there. All the links in the description.
I love it.
All those links down below. Much. Yeah, man. Thank you so much, dude. Take care, man, and keep on rocking, man. We'll be listening.
That's great. Later on.
Take it easy,
awesome, brother. Huge shout out to Andrew Hagar for joining us on this brand new episode of the show. Like we said, this guy was awesome. And I love the fact that he's very candid and open. He loves some great music. He loves the good tequila. He loves a good time with his friends and his family. And, who doesn't? I feel like we can all relate to that.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that, like, example, he could have taken, and it's not necessarily, as we spoke in the interview, the easy road and do music because your father is a huge fucking star or whatever it may be, It's more, the fact that he chose to do his own thing with MMA, found another passion, but also music and stuff on the side, and then realizing like, man, I wanted to say it when he was talking about it, when he did the transition from MMA to music, when you walk off stage, you feel great, right? Just like if you want to fight or whatever, but you're not bloody and you don't have to recover for 3 weeks so your face looks sort of
no brain damage,
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe less.
I think he made a good choice,
100%. And I mean, listen, the music speaks for itself. The new single Systematic Minds is out everywhere now. And the reason I'm pointing down is because the link is in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to go check it out, man. Produced by Trev Lukather, of course, another friend of the show. And we appreciate you guys checking in for episode number 120. Of course, make sure to go check in with us on all of our socials at SoundMojo. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, check the audio version of this podcast on all platforms. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio. Anywhere you can listen to your podcast, you can listen to the Innersleeve Music Podcast. And make sure to give us a 5-star rating or review as well if you like the show. Also, we got merch. Click the link down below for all different types of merchandise. It's getting to the time where I'm going to break out the SoundMojo shorts. It looks like Joe in the swimsuit. Get out there, have a good time, enjoy the summer. So make sure to click those links. And of course, that's right. Nice little cap. You know what I mean? We're going to need the SoundMojo sunscreen is going to have to be next. You know what I mean? Get beach ready. And of course, make sure to like and share this video on all platforms. We appreciate you guys' support. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.